Peace and welcome to the Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters. Thanks for watching and subscribing to our channel.
Again, we're in a time where when you pull that curtain back, you're going to see it ain't no whiz and no eyes. And it's important to have that ability in any type of domain that you go into and anybody that you're engaging, because a lot of times people use various different things to try to manipulate and deceive people. And if you're able to really ask people to explain or expound upon certain things, you can really get a chance to see how studious they actually are. So I say that to say, once you get into this lesson, the 36th degree, tell us what is the exact years, months, and days of the devil being birthed on our planet. If you ask the average 5%er, they may be able to quote this to you. They say 6,020 years, 72,241 months, 2,197,351 days to the date of this writing. They can quote that. But if you ask them, could you show me how you figured that out? They're going to be just like that SpongeBob meme. All right, I'm going to head out. So first of all, before we go into like the understanding of that lesson, I'm going to show you how to break down how that was, those numbers, where he got those numbers from. So keep in mind that these are the answers, or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is answering these questions that are posed to him by Farad. So where the hell does he get 6,020 years, 72,241 months, 2,197,351 days to the date of this writing? So I'm going to show you how to calculate that. Okay, so y'all can see this, right? So 6,020 years. So you have to actually go in the lessons to find out how he actually came up with those numbers. So this is the first thing that you do. If you go back, you remember our culture degree in the 1 to 14s? If you went all the way back in there, this part right here, where it's talking about the devil, it tells you that this was 6,019 years ago. So, and then down at the bottom, it tells you the year 1 is 15,019 years ago. So if the year 1 is 15,019 years ago, that doesn't tell you what year you're standing in right now. That is the unknown right now. You can sit there and say, yo, that happened 15,019 years ago, but if today is 2020, that still doesn't tell you what year you're actually in right now. But here's the way that you can actually start calculating where that came from. So if you went to the 1 to 36, and I'm going to also show you the each set of lessons that we've gone through, I'm going to show you what year that they were actually written in. So you see this right here in the 1 to 36, it says my uncle was brought here by the trader 379 years ago. Y'all see that? Let's start right there. Okay. 379. Now, in the chat, because somebody put what year that it's been said that the first enslaved Africans arrived here in North America. There's 2 different years that they say that the first enslaved Africans arrived here. One of them is 1619, and that's not the year we're talking about. Is anybody familiar with the other year that they say the first enslaved Africans arrived here? Exactly, 1555. Now look at this. If you add 1555 with 379, what do you get? $1934. So now by Elijah making that statement in the 1 to 36, you have an accurate account of what year he's writing this in. So the 1 to 36 was written in 1934. So I'll put that there. And this is also going to show you, because some 5%ers you come in contact with, the way that they got their lessons was a certain order. They may have got their student enrollment first, their 1 to 10s, then they got their 1 to 36, then they got their 1 to 14s, then their 1 to 40, then their actual facts and solar facts. I got it in a different order. And sometimes people will sit there and try to debate. No, the 1 to 36 came before this, that, and the third. Okay, well, we're getting ready to show and prove that right now. What was the actual order of the lessons? And then we're also going to explain what this actual data, this writing is. So the 1 to 36 was written in 1934. So I'm going to say that 1 to 14, that body of lessons, I'm going to say it's not 1934. It's 1933. That's my educated guess. You remember this lesson that we did about the history of Quran? The Quran will expire in the year 25,000. And it says 9,980 years from the date of this writing. So if you're looking at a calendar, which is 25,000 years, and then you subtract 9,980, what do you get? Exactly. 15,020. Right? So now, that fourth degree in the 1 to 14s tells you that Musa, or his birth, was predicted in the year 1, 15,019 years ago. So what that tells you is that had to be written in 1933 because the 1 to 40s were written in 1934. So now we've just established that the 1 to 14s were written in 1933. The 1 to 40s were written in 1934. And the 1 to 36 were written in 1934. So the proper order is the 1 to 10s were written first. Then the 1 to 14s were written. Then you had the 1 to 36 and the 1 to 40s written in the same year. So now let's go back up to the top. It says in the question, it says, what is the exact years and months of the days of that will be birthed on the planet? It says 6,020 years. So what would you get if you subtract 6,020 from 15,020? 9,000. Okay. So now 15,000, that equals 9,000. So now look at this lesson. If we keep going through the 1 to 40s and we went over this degree, the 21st degree, and it says, who is the founder of unalike attract and alike repel? It says an original black man who was a scientist by the name of Yaqub, born 20 miles outside of the holy city of Mecca in the year 8,400. So if he was born in the year 8,400, how many years did it take to make a devil? Exactly. So if he was born in 8,400 and it took 600 years to make a devil, that's where you get the 9,000 from. That's how you're calculating that this is 6,020 years. Elijah said that the exact months were 72,241 months. So he's telling you that there's an extra month right here. If he said 240, if he said 72,240, he would be saying he's in January, but he put an extra month on there. And then when you look at the 2,197,351 days, if you were to divide 6,020 by 365, you would get exactly 2,197,300 days. Again, if it was exact like that, he would be telling you that he's in January, but he's not, because he said 351 days. So you have 51 days remaining. So if you count from January, 51 days after, what date would you get? This is the exact date. This is the actual date that you would get if you calculated these year, months, and days. Elijah is answering this question based upon those calculations of it being this particular date. And this is what proves it. At the end of our lessons, it tells you this second lesson, this lesson number 2, was given by our prophet W.D. Farad, which contains 40 questions and answered by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, one of the lost found in the wilderness of North America, February 20th, 1934. But like I said, in order for you to figure out those dates, you would have to compare the dates that are given in these lessons. Because the same way that you have that great year, that stellar calendar year that's dealing with 25,000 years, you also have a Gregorian calendar year that is parallel to that great year, or that Asiatic calendar. So 1934 would be 15,020 in the Asiatic calendar year. So what would 2020 be? How would you figure that out? What would 2020 be according to the great year or the Asiatic calendar? How would you figure that out? Yep. $15,106. Yep. Yep. So now this is important because it gives you another perspective in terms of the telling of time. Even if you were like a stock trader or something like that, trading stocks is differently if you're a day trader in comparison to somebody that's invested in long-term trading. You know, there's a different perspective that you have in how you measure time that way, right? It's the exact same thing in life. When you're able to look at things in larger cycles, you get more of a perspective on changes happening on a larger cycle that trickle down and affect smaller cycles. And in looking at things from a wider perspective, it gives you more perspective on the microcosm. You've heard the phrase before, some people miss the forest for the trees because it's so fixated on what's just happening right here in the now, or what's just really close to their breast. It's important to have both perspectives to be able to see the larger cycle of things, and then also how it affects the smaller cycle of things. Because sometimes too, people may be looking at how things happen on a smaller cycle. Like, again, if you're trading, if you're looking at like a 1 minute chart, if you're trading, you know what? Let me see. I'm gonna show y'all what it's frozen right now, but I think I can show you. Hold on. So if you're looking at this 1 minute chart, these ups and downs are going every minute. That's why when you're seeing day traders on Wall Street and stuff, that they're constantly like this, because they're trading according to minute charts. Now let me show y'all this. This is a monthly chart. You see the trajectory with this monthly chart? It looks like it's much more to your benefit in the long range or in the long term. So if you're riding on a monthly chart, you're going to have a different emotional connection to what you're looking at, because you're looking at patterns from a wider perspective. If you're looking at that minute chart, you're looking at things a little bit differently, and you have a different emotional connection to the changes that are happening because they're much more frequent. Life is the exact same way. A lot of people look at life based upon a minute chart, and that's why they act the way they do. They constantly like this. But when you're able to see life in terms of a monthly or even a yearly or a larger chart, you have less of an emotional connection to minor moments, or like a second hand on a clock. You're not connected to the second hand. You're looking at the hour hand. So that stellar calendar or that Asiatic calendar, that large year, is looking at things from much a wider perspective and the different patterns or changes that occur on a larger scale. So you're able to see things that are much more substantial, and then other things that are just trending. And you know where to put your weight at, right? So that's one of the reasons why it's important to consider why in these lessons it's talking about a great year or a stellar calendar year. It's giving you a larger perspective in terms of changes on the map of human geography, as opposed to people looking at things that just happening like this and making moves based upon minute charts. And that's one reason why they say that day trading or people trading according to these type of charts is more risky. Because all of these little changes are happening right there, going on like that. You look at this larger chart, it's like this. It's much more stable. Yup. Yup. So this language and these lessons written about, 6,019 years ago, 15,019, that ain't just to sound good. It's telling you when you're looking at cycles of life from a larger perspective, you're able to see larger patterns or paradigm shifts that actually affect smaller paradigm shifts. And you're able to position yourself better because you're not going to get caught up in the waves of shit because you're making the waves. So in those lessons where it talks about the 23 scientists have predicted this, and it was predicted here and it was predicted there, that's because you are making the waves. You're not riding them. Most of these people riding waves. They're not making none. And it goes back to what the sister was saying earlier about disengaging in terms of, yeah, Makita, I think you was talking about that. Disengaging when it comes to social media or the news and everything else. Yeah. Don't ride no waves, make them. When you're looking at understanding equality or 3 and 6, understanding equality is also understanding balance or homeostasis or fairness and equity. If you really want to have a firm grasp or understanding things that are maybe imbalanced about yourself, you have to be very exact about pinpointing where some shit started at. If you want to have an ideological or an ideological perspective or the origin of where some shit started. So, for example, when you talk to people who have been in the rooms of Narcotic Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous or any of those things, and they're going through recovery, a lot of them, if you talk to them, they'll say, I've been clean for 6 years, 15 months, or I've been clean for 6 years and 9 months and 18 days. They will tell you specifically where it started. Why do they do that? Because for one, it gives them the ability to quantify their growth and development and to measure the distance between that type of deviance or that type of debauchery or whatever that they was dealing with to what it is they're dealing with right now. You're able to trace its origin. That's like a process of etiology. It's the same thing if you go to a doctor and they're asking you questions about, you know, your family history or when did you develop that cold or something, that cough. You know, they're going to ask you exactly where it started at. And the same exact process is important in terms of us being able to recognize different type of challenges that we have or adversity that we deal with. So the whole time that we've been building about these lessons in terms of devil, we've been talking about it from an esoteric perspective. Our own challenges, the things that we deal with internally. So if there's something that we see in ourselves, you got to trace that shit. When did it actually start? Because if you don't know the moment or the origin of it, it goes right back into that knowledge culture degree about the 85% who are easy led in the wrong direction, hard to lead in the right direction. If you don't know the origin of something, you're going to be disorientated. You're not going to have a sense of direction or know which way to actually go to address something. So it's important to be able to pinpoint where it is. And that's the reason why that lesson is so specific about the devil. The devil has been on this planet 6,020 years, 72,241 months, 2,197,351 days to February 20th, 1934. That's like talking about addiction or something. A person that is striving to get as far away as possible of something that they was dealing with before. So that's just a good approach towards anything that we're striving to address. You know, if we want to stop dealing with somebody, you're going to have to count that shit. Especially if you've been dealing with them for a long time. You know, the distance that you set between them is something that is important in terms of measuring your growth and development and your distance from that deviance and debauchery.